Hey everybody, I am your host Elad, and today I'm reporting to you from Foley Square in New York City at the climate strike. Let's go talk to some people, see what's going on. You have a sign right here that says, "The Earth is on effing fire." I guess Bill Nye said that.
Yeah, he did.
Can you tell me a little bit more about why you're out here, what it means for you to be out here?
Well, I mean, it's a historical moment, and I was thinking about coming here yesterday, and I thought to myself, am I going to look at this event in 5 years and think to myself, why the hell didn't I do that, or am I actually going to go and do something about it, right? Because I thought that if I didn't do it, other people would do it, but I guess that's what people thought for generations and generations and leading us to where we are now. So I really don't want my generation to be the generation that does that again. I want my generation to be the generation that fixes all of this stuff.
So I know we have a lot of different politicians talking a lot about climate change, most notably Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. She said we have something like 10 years left, and after that we're going to be in deep trouble.
Yeah.
So do you think in 10 years you're going to be happy you showed up, or not happy that you showed up?
I think I'm going to be happy I showed up no matter what, honestly. It just feels great to be here. I don't regret coming here.
What do you think a big ticket item that our government could do to address the climate change issue is? What should our government be looking to do to, like, hey, we need to check these two things to really address this issue to make a difference?
Well, I think that, first of all, we need to not spend so much money on military and stuff. Military.
Yeah, but how does that relate to, like, climate change?
Spend it on, like, planting trees and stuff. I don't really have a good answer for that.
Yeah. Are there any other big things that we should do besides, like, deal with the military or, like...
Plant trees, I think that's just a really basic thing we could do and cut back a lot on emissions and stuff like that.
I feel like nowadays we're blaming the United States for a lot of problems that we're seeing in the world, and like I think we're overblowing, the United States' effect on climate change. So in general, what do you think the United States' contribution of CO2 year over year to the planet is?
It's definitely substantial, but it's not really they're not the only we're not the only country doing this. We're not the only. The blame of all of this can't be only put on us.
Absolutely.
Actually,
so if we go to net zero, how can we have these other countries make it in their best interest to also do that? Countries like China and India, how do we convince them to also reduce their CO2 output?
I don't know. I just hope that maybe the goodness of humanity will rise, but that's not.
I don't trust Xi
likely.
Jinping at all.
Yeah, neither do I, honestly.
I had one last question.
Yeah.
I know a lot of the more extreme activists who are saying that the world's going to be ending within 10, 20 years or what have you. The student activists are saying that they're not going to have children in protest of this. Would you also take that oath to not have children because of climate change?
No, I don't think I would.
Why not?
Because humanity has to go on no matter what. If we don't have kids, we're not going to survive. It's just a basic thing in the species. It's a basic thing that a species need. Whatever happens, the Earth is going to survive. I just don't know that humanity is going to survive along with it.
We're out here today in Foley Square in New York City for the climate strike. I see it's written on your face, strike with
us.
Could you tell me a little bit more about why you're out here and what it means for you to be out here?
Well, I'm out here because I work with some of the youth leaders who have organized this climate strike, and I'm out here because there's literally nothing more important right now. Like, there's so many issues we need to deal with in America and in the world, but if we don't have a planet to live on, it doesn't matter. So I'm here because this is the most important thing we need to do. We need to take care of our planet. We need to make sure that our future generations have a future.
Absolutely.
Nothing more important.
Was there one Democrat candidate specifically that you were thinking that's really talking about this issue that you want people to go out and vote for because they're going to do a good job at addressing climate change right now?
I mean, Liz Warren has a plan for everything, and she's got a plan to solve climate change too. And she's the candidate I personally support. I think that all the candidates could do more. Like, this needs to be like crisis level commitment. Like, there's no other way around it. It's not just one of the issues, it is the issue.
What do you want to see our policymakers do then? And what do you want the public to do? What big ticket changes do we need to see made to help really affect the climate change and really stop polluting?
I mean, the youth leaders have demands, protect indigenous land, restore biological diversity.
Is that addressing like the CO2 part though? Because isn't that the biggest?
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you, it's very political. And even the youth leaders amongst themselves don't agree on everything, but they know that drastic action needs to be taken. They know that it's about justice. It's not just about taking carbon out of the atmosphere. It's making sure that indigenous communities, frontline communities, people of color, have access to healthcare and housing.
Is it a coalition bigger than just climate change then, right?
Oh, it's
so
huge.
It's not just climate change. It's not just like trying to protect the environment. It's like Green New Deal trying to protect the environment.
New Deal.
Yeah.
And we're ushering in the era of the Green New Deal, and that means not just like implementing environmental policies, it means rethinking how our society works so that it's just and fair and equal for all.
So do you think that it's possible to address climate change without this like big societal change that we had to do? Like, is it possible without the Green New Deal? A lot of policy people like AOC make it sound like if we don't drastically change everything we do now and get to net zero within 10 years, that's not even possible. So is that amount of, I don't know if I want to call it panic-inducing rhetoric, do you think that's good for the movement?
I mean, it's not panic-inducing rhetoric. It's the truth. Like, we literally are running out of time, and we're going into uncharted territory. And in the past, people in history have been able to take drastic action when it was needed. When there are wars, when there are catastrophes, we are able to step up to the challenge.
But then what, you said we couldn't decide on like what the big ticket action is. Like, are there a couple things you could name off that, I don't know, that some of the coalition agrees on?
No, I mean, they all agree on the Green New Deal. Like, this is ushering the era of the Green New Deal, not as a policy.
But the Green New Deal is vague. So like specific policy proposals, some people are like, we should be vegan. Some people are like, I know some people here are protesting and saying that we shouldn't have children because of that. Do you think, like, would you commit to that too?
I mean, those are, there's lots of opinions, and everybody needs to do something at the individual level. But I think what the kids are saying is that it's more than just what we as people decide to do. Our leaders have to make those decisions. The corporations that are, responsible for a vast majority of fossil fuel emissions need to take action. They need to change.
But then if we don't know the direction, how could we trust our leaders to take us there? Because I don't know if I just want to give Elizabeth Warren the keys and say, do what you think is best, right?
No, well, I mean, the kids, young people are going to vote next year, and whoever gets elected into the White House and into any congressional office is going to be elected because of a mandate that the young people gave them. And the young people are going to want to see action on climate change.
Feels like most of the kids can't vote here, though, right? Under 18?
Well, first of all, there's a lot of kids over 18 here. That's first thing. And second of all,
well, isn't it a high school
young people are the best at taking their parents, their grandparents, their aunts and uncles to the polls because they're saying, you need to vote for me. I can't vote. You need to vote for me. And nobody is more convincing than a 12-year-old girl. I mean, ask Greta.
Do you think we should be taking our advice from the youth now, like on issues like this? And why should we be taking advice from the youth? Because, the teachers are the one who teach them because they're young. Okay.
I mean, here's the thing. Like, this is their future. This is literally like they have the moral clarity on this issue because they see their future and they can't dream. I mean, it breaks my heart when I hear these young people say, we can't dream right now because we don't have a future. Our future is not secure. It's not guaranteed. This is where we're fighting. And it's very powerful. And they're not here with political agendas, and they're not here with,
Well, if we're a coalition to support like the Green New Deal stuff too, then it's more than just climate change, like you said. So isn't there a political agenda underlying a lot of this?
I mean, sure, but I don't think a political agenda is a bad thing. I think it just means that they're clear on what they want. For the kids, it's about climate justice. It's about the intersection of all the issues.
But then if we're letting the schools let the kids off to protest something that has an underlying political agenda, isn't that a little bit dangerous?
I mean, you know what? It's ridiculous that climate change has been made into a political issue. It is not a political. It's been politicized. It is not a political issue.
We're out here today in Foley Square for the climate strike. I see you have a sign over here. It says climate change is real. Trump's skin color, not so much.
Correct.
Can you tell me a little bit about why you're out here and what the sign means?
I'm out here because we get one planet. I'm out here because we get one vote. I'm out here because every single person can make a difference. And climate change is real. I mean, I'm standing out here, shorts, sweatshirt. It's going to be 80 degrees. The weather is going bonkers. Icebergs are melting. It's legitimately happening right now, right in front of our face. And people are legitimately trying to deny it, and it's petrifying. And the impacts are real. It's real. It affects animals. It affects people. I know a guy who is a sommelier who was explaining to me about how it affects wine and grapes and the ground. And wine is changing and alcohol is changing. That affects consumerism, and it affects prices, and it affects every aspect of your life that you could possibly think of. Climate change affects everyone, no matter your race, religion, where you are on the planet, what you believe in. You can't deny it. You just can't deny it.
I wanted to follow up there and ask, who are the leaders that you see trying to make a change in this issue that we should try to get into office? I see, because we're talking about Trump over here, I see your necklace also says F Trump.
Correct.
So I'm assuming you're not satisfied with Trump's role in this. Who do you want to see kind of replace him amongst the Dems, or who are the leaders here?
I would literally, at this point, vote for this cardboard sign over Trump. I mean, I would vote for anyone. Anyone is a better option. Anyone is better. anyone that believes in science, anybody that has a plan to put people and the planet first, because who cares about what your policy is if we don't have a planet?
Yeah.
You know,
I also want to follow up there and ask, because the U.S. contributes about 20% of the CO2 emissions year over year.
It's terrible.
How do we influence these other countries like China and India and other countries to hop on board with us and also try to reduce emissions?
Listen, I think, again, I think it comes back to consumerism and every single person taking responsibility. If every one person does the best that they can to lower their carbon footprint and to make a difference, the simplest things, you do not have to go berserk and go ballistic and like not use, you know, anything that's not recyclable. You don't have to go to like that zero waste. I'm putting everything in a mason jar and like living out of one bowl in my life. Just being a conscious consumer and being a conscious human being, picking up trash, trying to use recycled materials.
Well, like, what kind of practical changes do we want to see made then? Like, because some people are being a little bit extreme and saying, hey, some people are protesting here and saying they don't want to have kids. Some people are saying, you know, maybe we shouldn't be driving cars, we shouldn't be driving using airplanes. What do you think about that stuff?
I live in New York City, where I wish there were no cars on this island. I mean, I understand the need for transportation and I understand the need for cars. You can also then make the cars, you know, follow rules, just like everybody else. Lower emissions. Like, maybe we all go electric. Maybe the only cars allowed on an island are electric. There would be people that would disagree with me, but I don't have the answers. If I had the answers, I'd be a politician running for office. I believe the science, and I believe the people that believe the science, and I do what I can every day to contribute less to the waste, to try to support people that are contributing less, shopping local, shopping with, you know, and supporting environmentally friendly organizations, not littering. I mean, it's, for some it's rocket science.
Are those small changes going to be enough in the macro of it all, though?
What?
Because that's what it comes down to, right? People are saying, do we need societal changes? Like, is it a societal thing, or on the small thing, is just some people becoming vegan going to be enough?
No, fuck. Oh, sorry. I don't know if you can, like, I mean, really, like, you can eat whatever you want. I was just going to be like, if you want to eat meat, but, you know, be a responsible consumer. Like, just be a responsible, smart human being. I think people just really have so many few fucks to give right now, if I could be so bold. Like, everybody is so focused on their life, their money. People are panicking. They're holding on to everything they have, and you can't live as a society like that. You want to have kids, have kids. You don't have kids, don't have kids. But we need to populate the planet, or, you know, we're gonna die. Well, we won't be here to be. I mean, to be on it. I don't have any statistical information. I'm not that person. I don't take the deep dives analytically. I really just exist. I think like a lot of people do. Like,
I think the question comes down to, I don't know if the policies that a lot of politicians are proposing are the solution to climate change. I don't think so. We're hearing a lot of the Green New Deal stuff. I don't think the Green New Deal is really practical, or any parts of it is really trying to address climate change aggressively.
What's important? Yeah. All of these kids showing up. Yeah. All of these teachers teaching that science is real. All of them teaching that, you know, the icebergs are melting and the weather is changing.
Do you have any qualms about having kids be heavily involved in the movement? I don't know if we should try to involve kids so heavily in politics. Because, like, do you think all of these kids are very well versed in all the science and really understand?
It's not like when, you know, I don't want to say how old I am for them, but like, we didn't have social media. We didn't have all this access to information. We were too busy playing outside in the dirt and like not glued to our phones and the TVs and the news. These kids are so well educated and they're so well versed and they know what's going on in the world, because they also have parents who know what's going on and who educate them and who don't try to sugarcoat.
Aren't you hesitant at all to have so many children involved in the movement?
Absolutely not.
Like, leaders having, like, the Greta Thunberg girl, she's a Swedish child.
In front of Congress and said, F you all, believe the science.
But should Congress be taking advice from a 16-year-old?
Yes, really? Because Trump knows what the fuck he's talking about? I would believe Greta Thunberg every day of the week before I believe any GOP senator or anyone that doesn't believe in science.
Activists. We also have like David Hawk. Are you a fan in general of the younger activists?
I'm a fan of anybody that wants to make the world a better place for everybody. Like, how could you be against that? How could you be against kids and teachers? Listen to the crowd. This is activism. This is going to change the world. I mean, Trump's not changing it. All these old white crusty Republican men don't give a fuck and aren't changing it. They care about their money. They care about their bank account.
I mean, some of the old white guys care about the environment.
Bullshit. Who?
I think Nixon started the EPA.
Lincoln?
Nixon.
Nixon started the EPA? See, I didn't pay attention in history class. This guy knows way more statistically about what...
No,
You're fine.
she said no old white men care about the environment. At least one does.
Well, actually, Nixon doesn't care about anything because he died in 1993.
Cared, I guess, past tense. If we're getting,
That's relevant, though. That's very relevant.
you have a sign over here that says, "If you don't act like like adults, we will." So tell me a little bit more about why you're out here and what the sign means.
Well, I'm out here with the sign because a lot of adults don't realize all the fossil fuels in the world that we emit, especially from cars and things like that. It's really ruining our environment. So if they're not going to stand up for us, we're going to stand up for ourselves, or else we're not going to have a place to stand up for.
Absolutely. I know a lot of politicians have been talking about climate change, but did you have a leader in mind that you think is really changing the game about climate change, who you want to see elected in 2020, or other senators or House members that you think are really taking it to?
Honestly, I haven't really looked into politics like that too much, but I know if Bernie Sanders is running again, I definitely would vote for him.
So amongst all the Democrats, you think Bernie Sanders is the best candidate?
Definitely.
I know some candidates like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez have talked about how we have like some 10 years left, and she's proposed the Green New Deal. She says within 10 years we need to go to net zero emissions. What do you guys think about needing to get to net zero? Do you think we're in deep trouble after 10 years? And what do you think about AOC pushing the narrative forward with this?
Honestly, sorry, go ahead.
I think in 10 years, we are going to have irreversible damage. By that time, it's going to be too late. So we have to act now.
Do you think the world is going to like end per se, or the humans will just have to adapt in like many different aspects?
I don't think it'll end now, but I don't think we'll be doomed by then. There's no way we can reverse what we have done to the planet. The planet will not be able to recover from what we're doing in the next 10 years.
A lot of people make it sound like a lot of people who talk about climate change while it's an issue are doing a lot of fear mongering. I know there are a certain subset of student protesters who have taken an oath to not have children because of the climate change issue and are waiting for it to be addressed, and until then they won't have children. Like, would you guys take an oath like that?
Nope. I need to be a mother very soon, but I want to be the mother that's going to encourage your kids to change the world. I want my kids out here one day. I don't want them to have to be out here, actually. I want them to have to be in schools learning, and they learned about this, and they could say that our parents changed the world for us. I don't want them to have to grow up in a world where they're fair for their kids.
Would you take that oath?
Honestly, I'm on the fence about it because I wouldn't want my child to be out here having to protest for something that we should have changed years ago. But I don't know if personally I would take that oath. I just know that I will keep fighting until hopefully we come to a change.
Yeah. Last question. I know the United States contributes about 20% of the CO2 year over year, but then we have some other big countries doing a lot of damage too. China, India. It's going to need to be a worldwide effort. How are we going to convince these other countries that we might not have great relationships with now to also reduce their CO2 emissions? Because it needs to be a world effort. Let them answer, and then I'll talk to you after.
Honestly, for starters, we need to elect good politicians that will definitely be there for the people so that they can go and be our voice for those other countries and tell them, hey, we really, it's not just the U.S., it's not just China, it's everybody that needs to put their foot forward, and in order for us to have a healthy planet again. Because it is true, and it's not only, I think you mentioned Alexandria, who's saying that we only have 10 years. Scientists have been saying this even since before, that we only have a limited amount of years.
Well, it feels like we've been saying we only have 10 years for like 30 or 40 years right now. So that's why I'm not sure it's effective to be panicking, like saying we only have 10 years when we may have a little bit more time. But I just wanted to get your guys' final thoughts. Was there anything else you guys wanted to mention? I don't wanted to give you the time.
Well, I just wanted to say that there are so many ways. If you feel like you can't do anything, there's so many ways. Like, I'm a fashion student. So for me, changing the world means sustainable fashion, meaning to try to employ people that have talent, like by hand. Stop using machines, stop using dyes. Dyes are like affecting the water that we use. Like there's smaller things that we can do to make our planet a better place. You don't have to be out here. You can do it from your home. You can do it from your workplace. There's so many options.
Was there anything else you wanted to mention?
In continuation, so she was saying, I myself am a cartooning student, and honestly, if I wasn't out here, I would probably be making comics or making political cartoons trying to show the world the troubles that we have. And as many people don't know, once we have blackouts and all that kind of stuff, we have stars that we can't see during the day because of all the CO2, of all this trouble.
I thought it was light pollution. It's CO2.
Oh, that too. Light pollution as well. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's okay. I was going to say it's very important to recycle, and I commend you guys for starting to recycle here with this sign. Thank you guys so much for your time. I really appreciate it. Have a good one, ladies. Thank you. Where's that other guy? So,
Just a few words I'd like to contribute to that statement. You made a point with how do we convince other countries so we don't have great political relations with to help. And one has to consider that this is an economic matter as well. Just like a business, unless it can push it to the customer, it cannot be greener than its competitors because it will cost more and cause them to go under. Countries are like that as well. So unless we offer material support, subsidies to some of these other countries.
like China, we should offer subsidies to China?
For building green infrastructure, yes, that could be technology.
Do you trust Xi Jinping and the communist government in China to responsibly use this money? I mean, Xi Jinping's already screwing us on different trade aspects. They're stealing our IP property, our intellectual property. So you trust this government with giving them more subsidies?
I said in the form of technology transfers that it's not a matter of trust, it's a matter of obligation.
Okay, so invest in the technology and then give it over to China in hopes that they use it. It would need to be cheaper than the coal and the gas that they're using now, right?
Yes, that's why I said as to subsidizing it. Would it have to come out of our budget? Yes, but that's because we've lived off of fossil fuels and now we're telling, oh, we lived high on the hog, but now you can't do the same. So it's the only way to balance it between us and them. That's why I said it's not a matter of trust, it's a matter of obligation.
Can we afford to subsidize, you think, all of China's energy needs? I don't know if that's like a practical solution, just realistically now.
I only said we needed to offer some subsidies as far as the technology. Once that's up, the capital requirements are up. China can build it themselves, but the upfront capital requirements, including intellectual capital, those are the things which need to be addressed first. And again, it's not just us, it's also all the other developed countries, the Germans, the British. Everyone also needs to, it's not just an us problem, it's a developed world problem. And again, the consequence if we don't do that is it ultimately becomes our problem anyway because those oceans that go to China.
The whole world's connected, yeah.
So it's, again, I think in our best interest to do so anyway, but it's also, I think, an obligation of us to do so.